Good morning, beloved. Today we're going to talk about joy, the kind that doesn't depend on the weather, your bank account, or the way people treat you. We're talking about the kind of joy that holds when everything else falls. Picture this. The city outside your window hasn't yet stirred, but inside your chest there's already a hum, a whisper, not from the world, but from the Spirit of God. Are you in this situation? You wake up with noise in your head before you even open your eyes. You smile for others, but inside you feel empty. Joy has become a word on mugs and t-shirts, but not a presence in your soul. So before we begin, take a second to like and subscribe, but only if something inside you wants more of God. Comment where you're from and how long it's been since your last real prayer. Ready? Breathe deep. Clear the noise. Christ is near. Let's begin. You've been trained to expect joy from outside. Compliments, vacation plans, a career that climbs, or the next distraction that promises to make you feel alive. But what if true joy begins where the noise ends? What if it's in the quiet place, before the scrolling, the news, and the morning coffee, that heaven is waiting to pour joy into your soul? You don't find joy by chasing louder moments. You hear it when you stop running. Joy is not the absence of pain, it's the presence of Christ whispering through your breath, "You are still mine." The world shouts, but heaven whispers. This morning, you may feel ordinary, small, unnoticed. But here's the unshakable truth. You were created by a God who rejoices over you with singing. He did not create you to carry sorrow as your identity. Sorrow visits, but it's not your home. Joy is. And yet, to hear this joy, to let it root into your heart, you must make room. Are you letting joy be crowded out by noise? Have you grown comfortable in distraction because you forgot how to sit in silence? When did you last let your soul breathe before your day began? No phone, no words, just space for God to speak first. Because when He speaks first, joy has a voice. You were made to receive this joy, not earn it, not perform for it. Just receive. But you can't receive what you don't make space for. So the challenge is simple but real. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, sit in the silence for 2 minutes. Not to ask, not to plan, just to be. This is where joy begins, not in the success of the day, but in the surrender before it starts. And it's here, in the stillness, that you'll remember. Christ has already won the day. You don't. Let His joy come before your effort. Let His presence shape your peace. Because the world may demand from you, but Jesus simply invites. You are not a machine. You are a soul. And your joy is not optional. It is vital. You've smiled when you didn't feel like it. You've posted the picture, worn the outfit, said, "I'm fine," and even convinced others that you were. But deep down, there's a haunting hollowness, a quiet question that rises at night when the noise dies down. Why don't I feel truly happy? You know that feeling. It's the ache behind the laughter, the weariness behind your eyes. And the world? It doesn't care. It just keeps selling you the next fake fix. Buy this, chase that, distract yourself until you're numb. But the lie remains. Happiness is not out there. It's not for sale. And you've begun to see through the glitter. The unshakable Christian truth is this. Joy is not a luxury for the lucky. It's the birthright of the beloved. You are the beloved. The world's version of happiness is shallow and anxious. It depends on good news, easy days, and the praise of people. But that's not the kind of joy Christ offers. His joy is steady in suffering. It stands when the wind comes. It laughs through tears. It is not based on the absence of storms, but the presence of God in the boat. And you know this. You've seen it in others who shine even in grief. It's not fake, it's faith. So, are you tired of pretending yet? Are you ready to trade artificial smiles for authentic presence? Are you done scrolling for something real when your soul already knows it isn't found in the glow of a screen? This is your invitation, not to reject pleasure, but to stop making it your God. Because pleasure fades, but joy, real joy, is sustained by the Spirit who never leaves you. You cannot manufacture it. You receive it when you surrender your illusions of control. Here's your reflection. What's one thing you keep hoping will finally make you happy, but hasn't? Is it a relationship, a job, a number on a scale, a dream you haven't reached yet? What would it mean to release that dream, even just for today, and say to God, if I have you, I already have joy? Can you dare to believe that the greatest joy you'll ever know is not when the world finally applauds, but when you finally rest? This isn't about denying your desires, it's about ordering them. Happiness isn't bad, it's just too small to hold the weight of your soul. Only God can do that. Only He can fill you where the world leaves you empty. So the movement now is this. Take 5 minutes today to do something with God. Not for Him, not as a task, just a walk, a prayer, a song. Let it be a space where joy can breathe again. Because until you stop chasing shadows, you'll keep missing the light. And that light is already shining, waiting for your yes. Christ is your joy, not someday, today. You were made for true gladness. Not the kind that flickers when you get what you want, but the kind that anchors you when everything else slips away. Do you feel that longing inside? The ache for something deeper than comfort, louder than applause, purer than pleasure? That's not random. That's design. You were created in the image of the God who is joy, not just the giver of it, but the very source. So it makes sense, doesn't it, that the more you drift from Him, the less gladness makes sense. This is the unshakable Christian truth. Joy isn't a personality trait, it's a presence. The presence of Christ alive in you. You weren't made to carry despair. You weren't meant to walk through life with a brittle heart and a fake grin. You were made to be lit from within by a gladness that's unbreakable because it isn't yours to generate. It's His gift. But to receive it, you must let go of the idea that joy is something you earn. It's not a reward for a perfect life. It's the evidence that you've let the giver of life dwell fully within. Do you believe it? Or has the world convinced you that joy is only for those who have it all together? Joy is not the result of perfection. It's the companion of surrender. When did you last sit still and say, I don't have everything, Lord, but I have you, and that's enough? That moment, humble, simple, unseen, is where joy comes rushing in, not because you're strong, but because He is near. Reflection. Where have you been searching for gladness apart from God? What are the places, habits, or patterns that promise satisfaction but leave you spiritually dry? It's time to bring them into the light, not to be scolded, but to be set free. The freedom of true joy begins with truth. I can't find joy apart from you. So let this be your interior movement today. Pause in the middle of your routine, just once. Maybe when you're brushing your teeth or waiting at a stoplight. In that moment, whisper in your heart, Jesus, you are my joy. That's it. Simple, real. No performance, no conditions. You are His and He is yours. And that is enough to make the heavens sing. The world may never understand this kind of gladness. It may call it naive, unrealistic, strange. But don't be surprised. Light always confuses the darkness. Your soul was never meant to blend in. It was meant to burn. And when Christ fills you with His gladness, you begin to shine with a peace the world cannot comprehend. There are days, maybe even today, when joy feels far away. You wake up and everything feels heavy. Not tragic, just dull, colorless. The kind of sadness that doesn't cry, but lingers in the corners of your mind like fog. You move through your routines, you say the right things, but inside, there's a quiet ache, and sometimes you don't even know why. You wonder, why can't I feel joy like I used to? You remember moments when your spirit felt alive, when laughter came easily, when worship felt like fire in your chest, and now, silence. The unshakable truth is this: your feelings are not the measure of God's nearness. He has not moved. Joy has not left you. It's just buried beneath the noise, the wounds, the fatigue. Even saints had seasons of spiritual dryness. Even Jesus wept. So you are not failing when joy feels distant. You are human. But here's the difference. You are not alone in that distance. Christ enters it. He walks into the quiet ache, the slow mourning, the numb heart, and says, I'm still here. So the question is not, where is joy? The question is, where are you looking? Are you staring at your phone, hoping for joy to arrive through a screen? Are you keeping your heart busy to avoid what you're really feeling? Are you afraid that if you stop and face the silence, you'll realize how empty you feel inside? That's not failure. That's the invitation. Because God doesn't pour joy into full hearts, He fills the empty ones. When did you last bring Him your numbness? Not your passion, not your performance, just the dry soil of your soul. That's where joy grows, not instantly, but faithfully. And it starts with a simple movement today. Tell Him, say it plainly, Jesus, I don't feel you. I don't feel joy, but I want to. That longing alone is holy ground. Reflection. What if the distance you feel isn't a punishment, but a preparation? What if God is allowing your joy to fade in old places so you can find it in Him again? Can you sit in the silence without rushing to fix it? Can you believe that even this dry season has purpose? Here's your invitation. Light a candle. Tonight. Not for a ritual, not for a show, just for stillness. Let it burn as a sign that your soul is waiting, not in despair, but in trust. Because joy will return, not always as laughter, sometimes as quiet confidence, as peace in the middle of questions, as the still knowing, He's not done with me yet. You are not broken because you don't feel joyful. You are being formed. And when joy returns, and it will, you'll see, it wasn't lost, it was deepening. The joy in you is not just under attack, it's under siege. Not by people, not by your circumstances, but by an enemy who knows how dangerous your gladness is. You see, Satan doesn't mind if you're busy, religious, even productive, as long as you're joyless. Because joy is strength, and a joyful believer terrifies the dark. Why? Because true joy declares, even in the storm, I am not afraid. I know who I belong to. Joy is defiance against despair. It's faith that sings even when there's nothing visible to sing about. This is the unshakable Christian truth. Your joy is not a mood, it's a weapon. When you choose to rejoice in the face of loss, anxiety, confusion, you are waging war. Not with fists, but with faith. Not with control, but with surrender. The enemy hates this because he cannot counterfeit it. He can imitate pleasure, he can mimic distraction, but he cannot replicate the joy of the Lord that lives in a soul surrendered. So, ask yourself, what has been draining your joy lately? What small lies have crept into your heart? I'm not enough. Nothing will ever change. God has forgotten me. These lies don't just steal your peace. They shrink your prayers, blind your hope, and dim your light. But you were never meant to carry them. You were meant to fight them, not alone, but with the Word, with worship, with a spirit that says, even now I will praise. Reflection. Are you aware of the spiritual warfare happening around your joy? Or have you mistaken the dullness for normal life? The dryness may not be circumstantial. It may be strategic. The enemy will always target what threatens him, and a soul filled with the joy of God is a threat, not because you're perfect, but because you are anchored. Your movement today is this: worship before you feel like it. Even one song, even one whispered hallelujah, not as a performance, but as a declaration. Your voice raised in praise when everything feels low is not ignored. Heaven hears, and hell trembles, because joy in suffering is not natural, it's supernatural, and it means you are not fighting alone. The battle for your joy is real, but so is your victory. Christ has already triumphed. He wears the crown of joy that no one can take, and He places it on your head, not when you've earned it, but when you've simply come to Him with open hands and said, I need you. That moment, that surrender, is the sound of chains breaking. Don't let your joy be stolen by subtle lies or slow discouragement. Fight, but not with anxiety, with adoration, with trust, with the unshakable truth that your joy is guarded by the King of Glory, and nothing, no shadow, no lie, no failure can take what He's placed in you. Joy is not just a feeling. It's a habit, a posture, a sacrament of the everyday. And somewhere between your to-do lists and tangled prayers, you forgot that joy doesn't arrive on its own. It is invited, cultivated, protected. God has given you tools, holy tools, to draw heaven close. And one of those is gratitude. Another is prayer. Not the rushed kind, not the formal kind, but the kind that pauses, breathes, and means every word. In that space, joy is not forced, it flows. Here is the unshakable truth. Joy often hides in simplicity. It's in the breaking of bread, the whispered thank you, the surrender at the end of the day. The world wants spectacle. God wants sincerity. And when you combine gratitude with prayer, something sacred happens. Your soul opens. And when your soul opens, joy enters. Not always loud, but always lasting. So let me ask, when was the last time you thanked God for something small, truly thanked Him? Not because you had to, but because your heart swelled at His kindness. A sunrise, a warm cup of coffee, a stranger's smile. These are not filler moments. These are sacraments in disguise. They are holy because they carry His fingerprints. And when you notice them, your soul wakes up again. Reflection. Are you waiting for your circumstances to change before you choose joy? Are you postponing praise until the pain leaves? What if the very act of thanking God is what opens the door to the joy you're longing for? What if prayer is not about getting more, but noticing what you already have in Him? So, here's your movement today. Write down 3 things you are grateful for, but do it while sitting in stillness, speaking each one aloud like a prayer. Don't rush it. Let each thank you draw you into the presence of the giver. This is not a spiritual exercise. It is spiritual warfare. Because a grateful soul is a joyful soul, and a joyful soul is unshakable. Your joy will not always feel like dancing. Sometimes it will look like faithfulness, like showing up, like choosing not to give in to bitterness, like praying when your heart feels quiet. These are the small altars where joy is born again, and the Spirit, gentle, faithful, meets you there. Never forget, your access to joy has nothing to do with how loud your life is, and everything to do with how open your heart is. God is not hiding from you. He is waiting to be noticed in the ordinary. And when you notice Him, when you stop and pray, when you give thanks, you begin to see what the world cannot, that heaven is near, and joy is already blooming at your feet.
There's a joy that doesn't just comfort, it transforms. And you begin to taste it the moment you say yes to obedience. Not out of fear, not out of duty, but out of love. Because something shifts in your soul when you stop asking, "What do I want today?" and begin asking, "What does God want for me today?" Joy blooms in that surrender. It's not loud, it doesn't need applause, but it's deep, and it brings peace that outlasts pleasure. This is the unshakable Christian truth. You were made not just to feel good, but to do good. And every time you obey God, even when it's hard, you become more of who you truly are. Holiness is not the enemy of happiness. It is the path to it. The lie of the world says, "Follow your heart," but the gospel whispers, "Follow me." And when you do, joy follows. Not because life becomes easy, but because your soul becomes aligned. Ask yourself honestly, are you resisting the joy that comes through obedience? Have you told God later or maybe when He's already whispered now? What small step have you been avoiding because it feels costly, yet deep down you know it's right? Obedience is not about rule keeping, it's about intimacy. The more you walk with Him, the more you feel Him. And where He is, there is fullness of joy. Reflection. What command of God are you wrestling with right now? Forgiving someone? Walking away from a habit? Trusting Him with the unknown? You already know what He's asking. The question is, do you trust Him enough to say yes, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it costs something, especially then, because joy waits on the other side of your yes. Here's your movement. Say yes to one thing today that God has been asking. Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's a quiet act of service. Maybe it's a letting go. But make it real, not someday, today. And don't do it for the outcome. Do it for the joy of pleasing the one who made you. You'll be surprised what happens. You'll feel lighter, freer, not because everything around you changes, but because something inside you does. Obedience clears the clutter from the soul. It invites clarity, peace, and the presence of God. And that presence is joy itself. You don't need to understand the whole path to take the next step. You just need to trust the one who walks it with you. So take it, even trembling, even unsure, because your joy isn't waiting in your comfort zone. It's waiting in your calling.
You've been taught that happiness is loud, shouting, laughing, fireworks in your chest. But the truth? Some of the deepest joy you'll ever experience won't come with a smile or a song. It will come in stillness, in surrender, in places where the world sees nothing worth celebrating, yet heaven rejoices. Joy is not always a feeling that dances. Sometimes it's a peace that holds you when you don't have the strength to move. Here's the unshakable truth. God's joy is often quiet. It whispers in kitchens, hospital rooms, waiting lines, and tear-soaked pillows. You won't always recognize it. It may not look like joy, but it is. Because even in that low place, there's a flame inside you that doesn't go out. That flame is Christ. The world sees weakness, but heaven sees worship. And every moment you choose to trust God in the quiet, joy deepens. Ask yourself, do you dismiss the slow days, the mundane moments, as spiritually empty? Do you wait for mountaintop experiences while ignoring the valley where God gently shapes you? You've believed the lie that nothing's happening, when in fact the Spirit is doing His best work in your silence. The seed doesn't bloom in noise, it grows in hidden soil. Reflection. Think back to a time you felt abandoned, exhausted, overlooked, and now see how God was moving. Can you trust Him now, even when it doesn't feel joyful? Can you say, even in this, I believe you are good? That's the kind of trust joy loves to live in. Because joy isn't about escaping pain, it's about being held in it. Here's your movement today. Find 5 minutes of quiet. No music, no talking, just you and God. In that space, breathe deeply and say, Lord, I'm listening. Don't expect fireworks. Expect presence. Let your stillness be worship. Let your listening be an act of joy. That's where miracles happen. You don't have to force joy. You only have to make room for it. And sometimes that room looks like a whisper instead of a shout, a tear instead of a laugh. But don't mistake quiet for absence. The Spirit of joy is with you, especially in the silence, especially when no one sees, because your joy doesn't need an audience. It only needs an altar. And in the quiet, you will know this. Joy is not gone.
It's simply gone deeper. There comes a point when you realize this joy you're reclaiming, this gladness being restored, it's not just for you. You weren't made to be a reservoir. You were made to be a river. The joy that God places in your soul isn't meant to stay trapped inside. It was always meant to overflow, to spill into the lives around you. This is the moment when joy becomes mission. And mission, when rooted in joy, becomes unstoppable. This is the unshakable Christian truth. You are called to carry Christ's joy into a joy-starved world, into homes filled with silence, workplaces thick with pressure, and hearts heavy with fear. And your joy doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. It just needs to be real. Because when someone sees a weary person walking in joy, they take notice. They ask, "Where does that come from?" And in that question, God begins to move. Ask yourself, who around you needs to see joy through you? Maybe it's the friend who's always tired, the neighbor who never smiles, the coworker who hides behind sarcasm, or the family member who hasn't felt peace in years. You don't need to preach. You don't need to have all the answers. Sometimes the loudest testimony is a quiet gladness that refuses to die, even when life is hard. Reflection. Have you buried your joy under the belief that you must fix yourself before God can use you? Have you forgotten that your scars don't disqualify you? They make your light shine brighter. The world doesn't need perfect Christians. It needs real ones. Real joy, flowing from real surrender, speaks louder than anything else. Here's your movement today. Choose one person, just one, and bring joy to them. A word, a prayer, a text, a kind silence. Not because it's your job, but because it's your gift. You don't have to feel joyful to be a joy bearer. Sometimes the act of giving joy awakens it in you again. Don't wait to be whole before you shine. Shine while you're healing. Sing while you're still walking through. That kind of joy doesn't just change atmospheres, it changes eternities. Because when the light of Christ shines through your joy, someone else finds their way home. You were not saved to live in hiding. You were saved to reflect the face of Jesus, and his face is full of joy. Let that be what the world sees in you. Not your performance, not your image, but the joy of the Lord, quietly declaring, God is here, God is good, God is enough. Now it's time to carry your joy. Not just feel it, not just receive it, but wield it. Because the joy of the Lord is not soft, it's not fragile, it's fierce. And when you walk in it, you become a warrior of light in a world drowning in shadows. Joy isn't naive, it's defiant. It looks darkness in the face and says, you will not have the final word. That's the kind of joy the enemy fears. Not emotion, but conviction. This is the unshakable Christian truth. Joy is your inheritance, your identity, and your strength. It's not seasonal, it's not conditional, it's supernatural. The world didn't give it, so the world can't take it away. And when you realize that, you become unshakable too. Not because life won't hurt, but because nothing can separate you from the love that gives you joy. Ask yourself now, are you ready to stop reacting to life
and start living from the joy you already possess? The enemy wants you distracted, disheartened, discouraged, but not today. Today, you draw your sword, not made of steel, but of praise. You lift your shield, not made of control, but of trust. And you walk forward, not in your strength, but in His joy. Reflection: what battle are you facing right now where joy feels impossible? That's the very place God wants to meet you. Not with escape, but with endurance. Not with denial, but with peace that stands. Can you believe that joy is not the reward after the storm, but the presence of God with you in the middle of it? Here's your movement. Declare joy out loud today. Speak it in your car, in your room, in your journal, in your heart. Say, "This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it." Even if your voice shakes, even if tears come, say it. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. And truth always bears fruit. You've come through silence. You've confronted the lies. You've stood in the ache. You've reclaimed your peace. Now go. Walk in joy like a banner over your life. Let it be the rhythm of your steps. Let it be the fire in your eyes. Let it be the fragrance you leave behind in every room you enter. You are not just a survivor. You are a torchbearer, and joy is your flame. Let it burn. Let it lead. Let it speak when words fail. Because this world is desperate for something real, and the joy of the Lord in you, it's more real than anything else. You've walked the path now, not of shallow happiness, but of sacred joy. You've sat in the silence, named the ache, pushed through the noise. And now look at what's stirring in your heart. Not just a better mood, but a deeper knowing. A confidence that your joy is not based on what happens next, but on who holds you now. This is your transformation. You're no longer a seeker of joy. You're a steward of it. You've learned that joy doesn't arrive with applause or perfect days. It is born in surrender, grows in stillness, and shines most when everything else goes dark. You've seen that your joy is a gift, a promise, a power. You've fought for it, and now it lives in you. God has not forgotten you. He has not overlooked your pain or rushed your healing. He has been drawing you back, not to rules or religion, but to the joy of His presence. That joy will carry you through what's next. You don't need to be strong for everyone. You only need to stay close to Him, and He will be your strength. So, as you go, remember this: the world needs you, but only after you've been with Him. Now go, and do not come back to the old life. You are not alone anymore. Let His joy rise in you like morning light. Let it break through your patterns, your doubts, your shadows. Let it